Welcome to my Let's Play of Spelunky. This is episode 17, and I'm Psychedelic Eyeball. In this update, we're gonna have a look at the things that we didn't unfortunately see through the main videos of this Let's Play. We're gonna start with all of the characters that we didn't unlock yet, and that I managed to unlock while I was recording all of the footage for this one video. You will find Abraham Lincoln inside the haunted castle, and in fact you'll always find a coffin into the haunted castle, but all other times it will just be a slave. Another character that you can get will be in the City of Gold. I didn't see him in all of the other videos that I did, but here we are! It's a fine naked dude with some underwear that is made out of gold. Glory to you, my good man. You can find yet another character in Olmec's lair, but he doesn't spawn all of the time here, so it's just going to be a crapshoot whether it appears or not. Just like pretty much every single character except for Abraham Lincoln, which is always there. So you have to look all the way up in Olmec's lair. You'll always recognize the area because there's always a very particular singular area in the center of the level where there's a little entryway into the place with the tomb. And we just got a Persian ninja out of the deal, and even got a yin and yang symbol on his forehead, which I guess makes him a pretty chill dude, which is pretty considerable because, well, he's pretty much at the worst place possible, and there's not really any way for him to come back down without breaking his neck or anything. In fact, where the hell is he? Ah, there you are! Okay, I was wondering when you'd be able to give me a hand. So let's see how long will he survive against Olmec. Okay, unfortunately it was not too long. There are some other characters that you will just get as you play the game a whole lot, and they will eventually appear. For instance, the Pirate Lady, which is one of my favorite characters in the game, I gotta say. Most of the time she will appear in a random jungle level, but there's no definite way in order to make her appear, so you just have to play a whole lot until it happens. Oh shit. The Pirate Lady just got a shotgun. You better be careful of where you point this thing, because I don't want to die. As you may remember me saying, giving a shotgun to an NPC is really bad news, so let's see how true it is. Oh god, okay. Alright, now, you go, just shoot. No, don't, not. Okay, you have a clear shot now. What are you doing? What is going on? I refuse to understand how the coding of the helpful AI works, because right now there's nothing which is making any sense. Okay, I guess she was a bad luck charm in the end. And here's for another character that I ended up finding by accident. A yellow spelunker lady which is ready for exploration, and for death I suppose, because she really did not last long. I mean, how did you die even faster than I am? I mean, I'm being chased by a ghost and I have a ball and chain all over my feet. So, now let's take a look at some of the enemies that we either didn't see a whole lot, or that we need to see more. For instance, we're gonna talk about the Black Knight a little bit more. They behave exactly like shopkeepers, except of having a shotgun, they have this huge shield which will instantly crush anything it pushes against a wall. And he's pretty hard to kill, because fighting him with regular weapons is definitely not a good thing, because his shield is pretty resistant and will just bounce the projectiles back on your face, so the shotgun is out of the equation here. And anything else that you may throw at it, because it's just gonna bounce back. I tried my best in order to have a good old-fashioned duel with him, but most of the time you will see that this is not a thing which happens, because most of the time the Black Knight just ends up being encapped by something else. Right now, where the hell is this shield? Yep, this is an answer that we're gonna have pretty soon, because now that he doesn't have a shield right now, he's kind of a chump. He only has 3 hit points, and unlike the Green Knights, you can stun them even without having spike shoes. Yep, that was the cause of his demise. He got killed essentially by a snail. The snail acid bubble made him lose his shield, and yeah, this time I couldn't even fight him because he just crushed a frog and then the frog killed it. And once again, he lost his shield because of a snail. Yeah, the biggest enemy of knighthood are snails. Or giant frog in that one instance, because the frog that I shot some time ago was what ended up killing him. Most of the time, you will just end up killing the Black Knight by accident. another enemy that we barely got to see was this one enemy here, the Devil. You can only see them in hell, and it's a wonder if you even see them being alive, because almost all of the time they end up dying to traps. So when you end up in their line of sight, they just end up charging at you with this high-speed dash, which is pretty hard to avoid, and they charge so hard that they end up destroying blocks. And their huge spikes on their head is not a means of decoration. You cannot stun them, because otherwise they're just gonna do this. You cannot possibly stun them, but they're not really that smart neither. So essentially, the biggest mistake you can do against them is to try stomping them, because their stomping attack ends up stun locking you. So let's have a closer look at King Yama, because we didn't really see him that close and personal, because usually the best way to end up fighting him is to stay as far away from him as possible, as you can see here, but we're gonna get a bit closer to his flaming head, and most of the time this is pretty much the best thing you can do, because when you're closer to him, he just ends up spitting Magma Man at you instead of just making all of those calls fall out from the sky, and which end up damaging you and making you fall into a pit or spikes or anything. So here we go, we're finishing the game, we're gonna be hella dumb. So let's have a closer look at some items that we either never saw or we didn't use them at all. So the first item that we're gonna end up using is the shield from the Black Knight. It was quite a pain to obtain, as you've probably seen earlier, and you will see that for the most part, it's actually pretty worth it. It's just a shame that this is probably the hardest item to get in the entire game, considering how rare the Haunted Castle is. So the shield will crush everything. Enemies, allies, items, money, name it, it's gonna get crushed to heck in oblivion by this huge shield. But make sure that you don't end up turning your back at the last second, because this is when you're gonna take damage. But as long as you end up facing your foes, you're hardly gonna take any damage with this one item ever. Honestly, if you just want to finish the game, this is a really good item. I mean, it's gonna prevent you from getting a lot of gold, but here, those sticky traps are no longer any kind of trouble, because the shield just pretty much blocks them entirely. And in fact, you can pretty much go through dark levels without even having a light at all, because hey, whatever is here, we can crush it. However, this is the one thing I don't like with the shield. Getting money gets so inconvenient because you just end up crushing it all of the time. Which is why I kinda don't like the shield, because it prevents you from getting high scores, but hey, you can crush mammoths with it, so how about that? And in fact, it doesn't stop here. We can crush so many big things. We're invincible now, and we can kill whatever we want. You see Anubis right here? Usually he's kind of a feat in order to defeat. Yes again, we can just insta-kill him with our shield, because we can, and we are an invincible berserker of death and destruction. Yeah, we could even go and steal from the shop if we wanted to. We can just crush a shopkeeper, crush everything, all of these skeletons are gonna die. Okay, but the shield, however, doesn't protect you from explosions, so make sure that you be careful with that. The second item that we're gonna have a look at is Vlad the Impaler's cape. We saw it in the last update, but unfortunately it was placed in such an inconvenient location that we had to skip it because it was way too risky to get. So what's different with it compared to your regular vanilla cape? Well, the main thing with it is that it allows you to double jump, and after your double jump you will safely glide slowly down to whatever you want to go. But the thing which makes this item a bit inconvenient to use is the fact that unlike the regular cape, you cannot use it at will in order to stop your fall and break it in order to make it slower and more manageable. Once that you did your double jump, this is the only gliding you will get out of it, so you need to make sure that whenever you are gliding, you will keep your glide all the way until the end, because otherwise you're just gonna stop your gliding, and the moment that you stop this, you're not gonna be able to reactivate it, because you can only activate the cape once per fall and jump, so make sure that you make it count, because once that you stop gliding, you're gonna fall down like a rock, whether you like it or not. So in the end, I usually don't end up taking it because the regular cape is more common, it's easier to use, but with that said, it can save you into many situations. And yeah, this is not really an item, but this is part of a trap because those things can be pushed, so if you ever wanted to have a spike ball at another place, this is what you can do outside of just bombing it. Now, better late than never, because we're gonna have a look at what the worm in the jungle plays like. Obviously, its looks are not gonna change at all because we're just talking about a place which is full of worms as well and all of these spiky things, but we never really ended up playing it as we were doing it the LP. All of the time that we went in the worm, it always was in the ice cave. And the reason for that is quite unfortunate because if you end up going in the jungle worm, it is not possible to go to hell because you're not gonna be able to make a black market spawn at all, so all in all you're only gonna get a regular ending if you go there instead of going in the ice cave, where going to the hell is going to be a possible thing still. So essentially the only difference is that you're gonna fight enemies that you find in the jungle instead of the enemies in the ice cave. With that said, it can change the way the level plays, because obviously there's nothing worse than having to deal with a bunch of monkeys, as well as all of those bats, and yeah, I guess those fire mushrooms can also be pretty fun. But other than that, the basic enemies of the worm are still the same. You have the spiky things, the worms, as well as the worm eggs, which are all over the place. And later on, we're gonna have the same pool of acid where we can get the Chris knife from. And this may be the one thing that you want to go to the worm for, because then you'll have a Chris knife really early in the game. But once again, what good a Chris knife is for if you cannot go to hell with it. So essentially, you're just doing this whenever you just want to do regular playthroughs, because otherwise, going to the jungle worm doesn't have any benefit. And yeah, did you remember that the Chris knife will horribly give your allies or anything else that you really don't want to destroy at all? Because just in case you didn't remember, here it was back in action. And even then, with all of this, I still prefer going to the worm whenever it's in the ice cave, because I don't know, I just really like dealing with the enemies of the ice caves a whole lot more than the jungle enemies for the most part. They're just a whole lot more diverse and they have far more variety as well than personality. I mean, it's just so fun knocking a whole lot of UFOs around, using them in order to create tunnels for you, and having all of these Yetis which patrol these tiny ledges where you're gonna be able to crawl through. And even then, the only thing that really makes Yetis a threat is the fact that they throw you around, but since you're in a tiny corridor like that, they can't even throw you around anymore, so it's a win-win situation. But enough for that, we've already reached the end of the worm. So, what exactly did we gain out of doing this in the jungle? Well, not a whole lot, but with that said, if you get a rushing water level, then you can finally get your revenge against that stupid big old bitey which takes tons of damage. You have 40 hit points. My Chris knife really doesn't care one bit. So I guess that if you're lucky enough, then going to the jungle will net you an easy $10,000. But even then, I don't see the appeal. And now, time for one of the most elusive secrets of the game. The Eggplant. The Eggplant was the one item during the entire LP which eluded me, and the reason is, in single player, it's incredibly hard to get. First of all, you need a mystery gift, and once that you've bought one, you need to bring it to an altar. And by the way, both need to be on the same level because you cannot bring a mystery gift to another level. So all in all, the chances of that happening are pretty nil. So sacrificing the gift will net you this item. And yeah, this item is so secret that it's not even listed in the journal of the game. And in fact, in the official soundtrack of the game, this song is not even included with it. So that's how secret it is. For a very, very long time, people could not figure out what you will do with it, and it's only whenever the PC version got out that people figured out the secret of it, using like cheat engine and all sort of things like that. But before we go to that one point, we're just gonna walk around with our little eggplant in order to see what it does for us. unfortunately, the second that you go to another level, the music stops playing, which is kind of a shame because I like it. But the thing with the eggplant is that it's very fragile. Whipping it will just squash it into oblivion, and we've just lost it, so congratulations, caveman, for making me lose that item. So the easiest way in order to get an eggplant is to play the game in multiplayer, because whenever you buy an item, the shopkeeper will always wrap it up in a gift. So that will pretty much suit the purposes of what we have to do just fine. It counts as a mystery gift, so here, instead of paying $8,000 in order to get a mystery gift, we paid $1,000 for parachute, and now the eggplant run has resumed once again. So essentially, the gist of the eggplant is that you have to bring it to the end of the game, and by the end I mean hell, and something good will happen. But another thing which makes the eggplant run really hard, throwing it anywhere will also squash it down to a pulp. So let's see what happens if you somehow manage to bring it all the way to hell. You use it in order to fight the final boss. Yeah, you just throw it in his face and he becomes somewhat of a... I'm not too sure what he's supposed to be, but he certainly is something. So once that you manage to fully kill him, instead of having his flaming head just fly all over the place, instead you have a very pretty sight. We're just gonna let our character get all the way over there, and by the way, thanks to Benenosaurus Rex for allowing me to use this footage, and yeah, King Yama certainly doesn't look too proud anymore. So if you have the eggplant, then you will trivialize the final boss fight because that's all that you need to do in order to win. But getting the eggplant all the way there is the hardest thing ever, because there are two parts in the game which explicitly forbids you from bringing the eggplant to another level. The first one of them being having to collect the edge head, because then you cannot carry your items through the next level anymore because you have to kill yourself. And the second thing is the fact that you have to bring the scepter to level 4-1 in order to open the way to the City of Gold. So it is close to impossible to do this feat all alone. You really want to do the eggplant run with 2 players. It can be done alone, but you have to use a glitch in order to circumvent the Ankh and dying problem, and you're gonna need either a hired help or a person that you rescued from a box in order to help you carry 2 items through level 4-1. And what better time to bring this subject of discussion? We're gonna talk about the ball and chain a little bit more, because it definitely warrants further discussion. So the ball and chain can both be very aggravating as well than really fun, but additionally, it is the one thing that you're going to need in order to be able to circumvent the Ankh problem that makes you lose all of your items as you go through it. So there is one way that we can get the edge head and carry your items through the other level, but you need the ball and chain, and you need to make sure that you don't smack yourself in the face. So whenever you fall down, well, either you hurt yourself like I'm doing right now, or you can use your ball and chain in order to break the otherwise unbreakable Ankh statue. So now we could go inside if we wanted to, even though the Ankh statues still look intact. So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna kill ourselves and we're gonna see what's gonna happen. Wait, what? Okay, so yeah, the ball and chain is totally impervious to teleportation because even though it can remember where you are vertically, well, it doesn't handle horizontally. But as you could see, we were able to get inside the Ankh statue and we were able to leave. And now the other thing that I'm gonna show you is how to get rid of your ball and chain. Ideally, you'd really want some climbing gloves in order to do that, but I have a shit ton of rope, so I'll be able to circumvent that little problem. So what you'll want to do is to throw your ball and chain into the hole here and make sure that you will be able to escape in time. Here we go, we don't have any more ball and chain. Also, here's a fun glitch with this item. It really starts behaving weirdly whenever you have a pitching mid, because the way that it works is you're supposed to be dragged alongside with your ball and chain, but unfortunately it doesn't quite work whenever the ball and chain is set in order to just never stop going through the air until you hit something, so all in all it doesn't work. So I'm gonna show you how you can also fuck up this glitch of going inside the Ankh statue. Yeah, if you go there too early, you don't get the headjet, but instead you get a diamond. So, with that said and done now, what's gonna happen if we happen to kill ourselves? We're just gonna skip forward to the moment where I die. Yep, by making this diamond spawn, the headjet didn't spawn and we are locked out of here. With that said, you saw that I lost my ball and chain this time because it went in the pit first. And other ways to get rid of your ball and chain involve throwing it in lava or getting it crushed with a block. Now, you may think having a ball and chain is big enough punishment, but what happens if we further piss off Callie? Yeah, not only you keep your ball and chain, but now there's a ghost which spawns, so now we better book it before it comes down to us, because right now we're not really in any way to do anything against it. I sure hope that nothing bad comes out of this entire ordeal. Yep, you may be hearing that familiar sound. Yeah, if you piss off Callie furthermore, then the ghosts will spawn at the beginning of every level that you play. So this is a way in order to make things a whole lot more hectic, and usually this is the kind of thing that end up happening and which cause you to die. If you ever wanted a more extreme version of Spelunky, this is the one for you, because sometimes things can get outright ridiculous. Right now I'm just trapped between a rock and a hard place, and I have no clue how the fuck I ended up surviving. So let's just say that you managed to truck on and you managed somehow to get all the way to Olmec. Well, how is the fight against Olmec going to go, considering that we have a ball and chain and we have a ghost right on our tail? Yep. We get killed during the cutscene, so you do need to get rid of your ball and chain in order to make the ghost stop from appearing. So, speaking of the ghost, it turns out that there is a way to killing him after all. And once again, kudos to Bananasaurus Rex for putting all of this footage together. I've also took the liberty of adding a timer at the bottom, just in order to show you how long it can take for you to kill the ghost. So, contrary to what people might think, there are ways in order to make him take any sort of damage. But this involves making him enter into lava, and every time that it will enter lava, it will take 99 damage. In fact, you probably saw that the ghost bled as it entered the lava. But the big problem, however, is that the ghost has 9,999 health, so while in theory is not possible to kill, it's a completely different thing in practice. With that said, good luck putting it together. In fact, there's another way that you can use in order to hurt the ghost, but it involves shooting him with UFO lasers. And it only deals 1 damage to him, so if you want to kill him that way, then I hope that you have nothing planned for the weekend, because that's pretty much how long it's going to take you. And in fact, doing it this way is already tedious as all hell. Not only it's tedious, but it's also pretty nerve-wracking, because you just have to miss a jump or misclimb a rope, and then the ghost will catch up to you and will kill you. At least we have the amulet, so we cannot die due to lava or magma man, but imagine we didn't have any of these luxuries. Now, I sped all of this footage at 10 times its usual speed, and you can see it's still pretty damn boring, so good luck ever doing that on your own, but eventually we're gonna see the light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, without much more fanfare, the ghost dies. It took a little under 10 minutes in order to get him to die. So how do you feel about that, Bananasaurus Rex? Yep, my sentiments exactly. Now, don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that killing him will not stop him from spawning on future levels. So, we're done with the main stuff of this update, and now it's time for the Chronicles from Another Life. We're gonna use both footage that I got into this one update, as well than the previous update, which I didn't showcase the clips of my demise because the last update was like 46 minutes long and I didn't want to lengthen it any further. So, first we'll show you how to get infinite life in this game. You need the Capella in order to do that, and you need a mummy which is well placed. Now, you can fuel up your health by having him barf on you. For some reason, this counts as blood, so this way you can get as much health as you desire. At this point, we're just gonna be an unstoppable machine of war and destruction. Well, that is until the ghost decides to come and spoil your party, but yeah, I have 61 health right now, so I hardly see myself die ever. I mean, I'm just gonna go laugh at Anubis projectiles right now. Yeah, I got hit by a projectile and what? I just lost about the 6th of my health. Whatever. And now, time for a weird bug. I have no clue what caused this to happen, but for some reason this corpse got all kind of slippery, and the moment that I try picking it up, this happens. I just cannot get him in my arms at all. The moment that I try to grab him, he just slips out of my grasp. So, what the hell, why are you made out of butter? Oh well, at least we're gonna try to make him worth all of the trouble that was all of his corpse. Alright, get on the altar already. Oh no, god damn it. Don't get impaled all over again, please. Ah, thank you. Wow, that was the hardest sacrifice to ever do. Now, the ball and chain can be a source of many amusing anecdotes, such as this one that we have right here. Oh, hell yes, I am free! Okay, I guess I'm free of my life now, so the same thing which managed to free me from my ball and chain ended up killing me. So let's pay a little visit to the haunted castle next, just in order to pay a visit to the man-eating plants. Don't keep them too long in your harm, because otherwise this is what happens. I tried to sacrifice it, but instead I was the one who was a sacrifice. And now, let's hear it for the worst way of finishing a run. I barely even touched that one ledge, and yet it still fell on my face. Okay, one of these past videos I ended up trying to shoplift a shopkeeper with a camera, and well, that was a one-time where it worked. Alright, now everything worked as planned, and unfortunately I was really saddened to see that the shopkeeper will not try to attack you with a camera. That would have been pretty funny. I mean, they can attack you with freeze rays too, so here's another pretty interesting bug. If an angry shopkeeper gets damaged by an off-screen enemy like a cobra, a snail, or whatever, it will be entirely pacified. And in fact, if this happens to a shopkeeper in a store, then all of the items will be free. And now, let's hear it for her Lord Rube Goldberg. Yeah, what the hell even happened there? Let's have a look at the replay. I got pushed in the pit by the bat, I tried to avoid the boomerang, my spring shoes made me bounce really high, and then I got impaled. Yeah, there definitely was a lack of spectacular deaths in this LP, but I think this is one of them, and now everybody's frying to death, and the damsel is safe! Congratulations, you did well! And that'll be it for this portion of the Let's Play. We've successfully covered pretty much everything that Spelunky had to offer, but the Let's Play is not finished yet, because we still have to tackle the challenge side of Spelunky. The next thing that I'm gonna do in the LP will be to try and attempt various runs of the game where I will play the game under certain conditions, or play with certain items, certain limitations, name it, you've got it. So if you have any suggestion of sort of stunts that you want me to see do, then post it in the comments or post about it in the Something Awful thread, and that'll pretty much be it for me for the time being. So, coming up next, we're gonna play the game with a ball and chain around our feet.